excited to introduce a very special guest. Governor Kathy Hochul began her career in public service on her local town board before serving as the Erie County Clerk and then as a member of Congress for New York's 26th Congressional District. She more recently served in the statewide office as Lieutenant Governor and now as the first woman to serve as Governor of the state of New York. Governor Hochul has a long history of being a champion for women and families. Some of the issues she has worked on include paid family leave, the gender wage gap, access to affordable health care, child care, and workplace discrimination, among many other initiatives. In 2006, she joined her mother and aunt in establishing the Kathleen Mary House, a transitional home for victims of domestic violence. A few years ago in 2019, the then Lieutenant Governor joined us for our Legislative Day of Action, and we are so excited that she is joining us again today as our Governor. So please join me in welcoming the 57th Governor of the state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Well, first of all, thank you, Connie, for the invitation to participate again in your annual Day of Advocacy. Zoom is fine, but it was so much better to be in person. I look forward to being back with you once again, hopefully next year, because the energy we derive from each other in our common purpose to eradicate violence against all individuals, but particularly domestic-based violence, is an important calling for all of us. And I really put it in those terms because it is hard work. It is hard to be someone who deals with survivors day in and day out, as many of your members do. There's a lot of pain. There's a sense of betrayal because often this is someone, if it had been in the context of a marriage relationship, there should be that trust and ability to rely on each other for support. And when that's betrayed and the environment turns either verbally or physically abusive, it really shakes a human being to their core. And they need extra help to help them recover. And also the impact on children. What happens to a child who grows up in an environment where there should be love and unconditional love among the parents, and they see that broken down. So we know domestic violence occurs in all shapes and forms, different relationships, but it is really hard to be in this space, and I want to thank all of you advocates who stepped forward to be the voices and the champions for the people who have to endure the unspeakable. And we have seen something that I call just an absolute travesty. I don't think at the beginning of the pandemic in March of 2020 that we could have foreseen the long-term impact that the isolation, the disconnect, the forced time people had to spend together without having a break really did result in an extraordinarily high number of cases to our hotline. And case of domestic violence, our calls are up over 34% over the previous year. And those are all cries for help. Those are people who are in an environment where they just know they can't sustain it any longer. So I thank all of you for being part of the system of help and recovery and support. And I'll continue supporting these efforts because this has been a lifelong journey for my family. Back when I was a college student at Syracuse University, my mother also decided to go back to college and become a social worker. And her first internships and her early work in her career were to help victims of domestic violence, except back then they were called victims of wife beatings. That was the narrative back in the late 70s. And she became a champion. I remember hearing her on countless phone calls as she took calls from clients and tried to build up self-confidence in women and to help them have that independence, often to leave a relationship that they felt trapped in and to take their children with them. Which is why later in life, my mother was, at the time, my mother was one of the co-founders of the Erie County Commission on Domestic Violence and was a true champion to help establish a place called Haven House. But later, for my mother's 70th birthday, she decided that she wanted to not have a party, but she literally wanted to have a family effort to open a home for victims of domestic violence, a transitional home where people could go for more than just a couple of days, but literally spend 6 months or a year and get the children there as well, get them in a new school, get them into a nurturing, loving environment, and teach them about how to have life skills that they did not have before. So this was an important part of my life's calling as well, to focus with my mother and my aunt to create this environment. And it was named after, it's Kathleen Mary House. I'm named Kathleen Mary, but that's after my mother's mother, who also had to endure emotional abuse from an individual who did end up walking out. Her husband walked out on my mother when she was just a child. So that's a phenomenon that permeates many families. Many times you would not expect it goes on, or even in dating relationships or partner relationships, but it's real, it's there, and it's only gotten worse. So I'm going to continue now as governor to be in a position to really do something about it, and that means also supporting programs like the $90 million we just put in our budget for domestic violence and sexual assault violence protection programs, as well as making sure that we fully support our Office of Victim Services, another $14 million for that as well. And we are the only state in the nation that has a cabinet-level agency that deals with gender-based violence. And that is another statement of our values, a statement of our priorities to help people recover. So I just wanted to lend my voice to all of those who extend our gratitude as representatives of this state, our other elected officials you'll be hearing from today, all believe in what you're doing. And I hope someday in the future that people will realize that, every life is special. Every person has deserves the dignity to be able to live in an environment that is nurturing and loving, and that this violence will soon be a thing of the past. But until then, we need your voices, we need your advocacy, we need your love, we need your caring for these individuals in their time of great need. So I just want to thank you, Connie, and Kelly Owens, and everyone else who's been working so hard in these areas. And I thank my Dynamite team for the passion they bring to this cause as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor, and we truly appreciate having this time with you this morning. Really appreciate all your support and your long-term commitment to working to end domestic violence in New York.
Thank you.
With much appreciation. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.